Hey guys, how's it going? Kermode here, back with another tutorial. In this video, I want to show you guys how you can make your drums more human with a few simple steps. And in fact, you'll be able to take those steps and turn it into a rack, which you can easily drag in, apply to anything, not even necessarily drums, and immediately make them more human. Now, before we get into this video, I do want to say this video is sponsored by Odyssey headphones. Odyssey made the headphones I'm wearing right here, and they've become an absolute integral part of my workflow in my studio. I really can't recommend them enough, so if you want to go check them out, head down to the description of this video. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. So there's a few different factors that make things more human, and let's take a look at our beat here and listen to how robotic it is. As straight, as boring as it gets. So let's imagine a human were playing this hi-hat. What sort of inconsistencies would occur when playing a hi-hat? Well, first of all, volume. The volume's never going to be the same. So what you can do, and I like to do this so you can really get a lot of feel, is grab Ableton's utility, but you can do this with any device that has volume. This isn't limited to Ableton. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to group this utility. I'm going to take the gain, I'm going to map it to macro 1. And with this gain mapped to macro 1, what's really cool is when we go into the map section and we open it up here, we can set a minimum and maximum range. And what that does is when I turn the macro, the gain or whatever's mapped will be limited to that range. So we can do something quite small like -2 plus 1, -1 plus 1. I'm going to keep it small like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to record myself playing this volume automation, and that's it. Just see how it goes. So let's do that. So let's see how that feels. That's already helping. So next, when someone plays a drum, obviously there's going to be timing inconsistencies. So you could hypothetically, program timing inconsistencies, or you could also use a device to do this. Now, I don't always recommend this technique because it can cause phasing issues, but sometimes it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab delay. I'm going to throw it into the same rack because this is going to be our humanizer rack. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a very small delay time. And similarly, I'm going to map this time value to macro 2, and I'm going to set a very small range, like 4 milliseconds tops, maybe 5. But what I'm going to do is I'm also going to press this little D here, and I'm going to delay the track backward 2 milliseconds. So that way, it's either going to be floating behind, ahead, and then as I move this forward, possibly perfectly on time. And similarly, I'm going to hit record on this. Cool, let's check that out. So let's solo that and take a listen. So I didn't hear the phasing. It's pretty high-end focus, so it's a lot harder to hear phasing. I wouldn't do this on anything low-end like a kick drum, but in this case it worked. I quite liked it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and change the pitch, because every time you hit a drum, you're not necessarily hitting it in exactly the same position, and the pitch might slightly vary ever so much. So there's a few different ways you could do this. My favorite way of doing this is frequency shifter, just because you can do it quite discreetly and it doesn't affect the highs as much. It doesn't sound like you're transposing it. It's a bit more of a subtle pitch shift. So similar, what I'm going to do, I'm going to map this to macro 3, and I'm going to set a very small range. So with the frequency shifter, I don't want to go less than even 11 hertz and no higher than, maybe 11, 10 hertz. And I'm going to record and play along as well. Cool. And now the last thing is timbre, which kind of is similar to pitch, but I just think the overall character of a sound can be different every time it gets hit. And with a drum, we could do this as well. Now, there's tons of different ways you could change the character of a sound. One of my favorite ways is to just subtly introduce distortion. And this is kind of cool too, because this can kind of play to the gain part of things as well. So it does a little bit of both, which is kind of nice. So I'm going to throw overdrive on here. And now it's really important, you don't want this thing blasting. So I'm just going to set the settings with a full wet value just to kind of feel it out. So there's this nice tone knob here in overdrive, which you can hear kind of sounds like a low pass filter, where when it's open we get more highs, when it's closed we have less highs. So what we could do is we could map this to macro 4, but we can also map this dry wet value, and we can keep the dry wet range quite small. Let's say hypothetically we took the dry wet and we had it go no higher than 5%. So again, everything we're trying to do is very subtle. So let's record that and see how that sounds. Cool. So now that we've done all that, let's check out how the hi-hat sounds. And let's take this off. Let's undo the delay and let's see what we had. Absolute robot. That just has so much feel to it. Let's listen to it soloed. This is really nice too if you have some sort of MIDI controller and you can play the knobs and really just get hands-on and feel human with things. So that's it. I know that was kind of a quick tutorial, but I just wanted to give you guys a rack you can build yourselves that you can apply to a lot of sounds to immediately go in and start to make things feel better and feel more human. So thanks again, guys. I'm Kermode. Have fun humanizing your drums. Peace.